So yes, Bombard and others out there, Eberron. Eberron was the result of a contest during the waning years of 3.5, where Wizards put out a notice to people to send in a campaign world. They would look through it and they would choose a winner and publish books based on that world. And if I recall, correctly, there was something around 11,000 entries of people who sent in their homebrew worlds and their considerations. And the winner of that contest was Eberron. I can neither confirm nor deny that, Coffee Cat. Let's see if I can put on some sort of a dramatic voice here for the introduction italicized words here, the introductory italicized words. In an ancient ruin beneath the demon wastes, a band of heroes race to claim the Reaper's heart. If the agents of the Emerald Claw reach it first, they'll unleash an army of the dead against the people of Corvair. In the city of Sharn, a brilliant team of spies pull off an impossible scheme, breaking into the impenetrable vaults of House Kundarak. But instead of gold, they find a secret that could shatter the fragile peace between the 5 nations. On the deck of an airship, a wizard debates the interpretation of an ancient prophecy with a blood-red dragon. If the sage loses the debate, the dragon will destroy the airship and everyone on it. But if she wins, the dragon will take them to distant Argonison, and no human has ever seen the land of dragons and returned. What is Eberron? It's a world bound by a golden ring and surrounded by 12 moons. It's the intersection of 13 planes of existence, which shift in and out of alignment. It's a place where magic has been harnessed as a tool, used to build cities, to sail ships through the skies, to create both wonders and weapons. Eberron embraces swashbuckling action and pulp adventure and adds a layer of neo-noir intrigue. Stories don't always end well, and there isn't a perfect answer to every problem. The last war turned old allies into bitter enemies and destroyed an entire nation, leaving terrible scars behind. Crime and corruption lurk in the great cities of Corvair. Hidden dragons shape the course of history. Sinister fiends influence the dreams of the unwary. Human greed and ambition may prove more dangerous than any devil or demon. But through this darkness, there are opportunities for a group of bold adventurers to make a difference, for better or worse. This chapter explores these core themes and the ways they can affect the stories or characters you create in Eberron. Here's a quick overview of what lies ahead. A magical world. From warforged and airships to the mighty dragon-marked houses, magic is a part of the world and its stories. Pulp adventure. Whether you're leaping from an airship or battling demons in Forgotten Ruins, Eberron encourages cinematic action and swashbuckling adventure. Neo-noir intrigue. Eberron is a world of difficult choices. The line between hero and villain is easily blurred, and even the champions of the light may have things they regret. The Last War. Eberron has just emerged from a century-long civil war, and the scars of that bitter conflict remain. How did the war affect your character, and how will it shape your story? The Mourning. This mystical cataclysm destroyed an entire nation and created a deadly wasteland in the heart of Corvair. The Mourning brought the war to an end, but it is a mystery and a threat that looms large over Eberron. Ancient mysteries. Powerful artifacts are hidden in the ruined cities of giants. Dragons and demons scheme in the shadows, unraveling a prophecy that could shape the future. These ancient mysteries can be a source of fantastic adventure and terrible danger. If it exists in D&D, there's a place for it in Eberron, but it may not be the place you're used to. These elements are all a part of Eberron, but you don't have to use them all in every story. As you go through this chapter, decide which themes appeal to you and best fit the stories you want to tell. I could probably hit I don't want to go through the entirety of this first section here. But I do want to I do want to touch on some of the bigger influences that exist. Oh yeah, it was, boom. Eberron was born in 2002. So, in this world, magic, it says magic is a tool. Magic is very prevalent. Magic is broad, but it's not necessarily deep. You don't have a bunch of, you know, fifth level spell wizards running around. A lot of people might have some cantrips, or there's magic items, such as things that cast prestidigitation that can act like a public shower in a way. I mean, no one has to get naked for it. But if you want to freshen up before you go somewhere, you can touch this stone, and it's a free to access public service. Magic elementals are harnessed, and for example, you see up here in the airship, a fire elemental is harnessed and provides the locomotion for an airship. Lightning or like electricity elementals are harnessed for locomotives. So magic is everywhere. It's not foreign. In fact, there's a lot of people who wear magic items, you know, for protection, or for they carry a wand instead of a gun, kind of a situation. Lightning rail, elemental airship, ever bright lanterns, continual flames, so they're street lights everywhere. Speaking stones allow communication between distant communities, and there's just an entire race called Warforged. Harnessed equals enslaved, clarifies Bombard. And you had a Warforged paladin named Warden. He had 3 retainers. They also followed him around. Very inexperienced with the world, found human interaction fascinating. First session was a noble's ballroom, a dance. So my character and my 3 retainers are really close, starting at a couple. Solved the first mission, had to proceed. One of the other PCs had an airship, which was attacked midair. My paladin had himself fired from a catapult onto the enemy ship. Ah, I love it. So then you have these dragon marks as well. So magic is everywhere. It, you know, cranes and, you know, planes, trains, automobiles, and cranes for building. Dragon mark dynasties. So there are very powerful families that carry this this heritage of dragons, and it manifests as a magical mark on them. And they do different things depending on that particular house. It's a specialty. Exotic locations, high stakes, the player characters, and really this was kind of that aspect that I picked up from fourth edition in particular, is that you are the big damn hero, right? To quote Firefly, you're the big damn hero. You are going to be the one that's going to go, and you have to make tough decisions, and you have to do all this, but it's up to you. It encourages you to use the environment around you. There's this element of neo-noir intrigue where it's not necessarily, you know, the necromancer isn't just the clear-cut big bad evil guy. You know, there's motivation. It's trying to challenge you to tell a deeper story, a story more of conflict, or people who do bad things because they're good people who've been thrust into a bad situation, or someone wrong place, wrong time, or I don't know, someone's being extorted and is taking the fall for this other group. even though this person is otherwise unimpeachable in his or her lifestyle or, charity or whatever else. There's something afoot that is causing this person to really come across as a stinker. Yes, yep, this is... isn't it... Evelyn, I know that you're a fan of a lot of different... editions. Isn't it interesting when you see art that you can pretty well place which edition it came from, right? Because of the particular themes, the colors, the artists that have been, the artists that might have been employed, or just sort of something that is a product of the era in which that edition existed. I really like that aspect, and a part of me kind of wishes that Magic cards would go back to use traditional art techniques, because a lot of it is done digitally, and I have nothing against digital art. I know a lot of you artists out there do that, but when you take a look at some of the pieces from older Magic sets, or if you take a look at older RP books, you just get this, right? There's a certain something where this really seems to have been organically drawn. This seems to have been organically, colored. It was just a product of its time with what was available, right? See, so here we have some airships docking at a great spire. There's cranes and that act as like magical elevators and such. So this is in brief Eberron. Now the Wayfinder's Guide is the rule book of sorts for Eberron 5th edition. You can find it on DM's Guild. And this is the updated version, and I couldn't tell you offhand because I'd have to open up the prior edition to see what was adjusted. But this one received an adjustment, I think, just sometime last month in February. I think it was around early to mid-February when something was tweaked in here, or several somethings. But there's a whole set in here. Now, as for, is this legal in 5th edition? I didn't see the usual, kind of disclaimer of Unearthed Arcana, right? That's usually up here. This book includes some rules and spells that originally appeared in Xanathar's Guide. Wizards of the Coast, Forgotten Realms, Ravenloft, and the Dragon Ampersand, and other Wizards of the Coast product names are trademarks of Wizards of the Coast. Contains material that is copyright Wizards of the Coast and or the authors. But I don't see something in here that says it's not official. So I suppose that would really just be if you can find the rules for the Adventurers League. If it tells you that you can't run Eberron, then it's not official. The Adventurers League is kind of the banned and restricted list of D&D. Bombard, it is legal. Wayfarers is official. Okay. They released Ravnica and Eberron at the same time. Okay, Bombard. I went to an art exhibit with magic art. Too bad I didn't have a few $100s to buy some of it. Yeah, GM Vault, I may actually have some art kind of like what you're talking about. And it is really, really interesting to have that. Yeah, Morgrave just came out, so it might be in its playtest, and we'll discover that here real soon. So yes, for any of you who are wondering, what is Eberron? Eberron is this Indiana Jones of D&D, right? Adventure, there's kind of this supernatural mystique. You live in a world where magic is intrinsic, so it's not necessarily special. But with that said, it's up to you to make yourself special, to make your magic special, and to foil the plots where, you know, in a world where everyone has magic. Does that make you with magic a noticeable figure just by that? Not necessarily. And that also means that the villains are probably going to be wise to your ways because they know magic as well. They can foil you with magic. They can plant false clues. They can create illusions a lot more easily because so many villains and such are going to have access to magic. Yeah, you have to use their modules for Adventurers League. Gotcha. Alright, so now we come to the Morgrave Miscellany. And for some reason on the PDF there's just a whole big old blank page. This book includes rules, subclasses, and spells that originally appeared in Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica, Xanathar's Guide to Everything, and Xanathar's Lost Notes to Everything Else. Alright, so this is the things that we're going to be getting into. There are, it's going to discuss the classes that exist in Eberron, right? The Eberron take on a Barbarian. And then there's going to be an offering of the Path of the Extreme Explorer. For bards, what are bards considered to be? What are they like? What is the cultural connection that makes Eberron bards different than maybe generic Western European fantasy setting bards that are presumed to exist in 5th edition? So the College of Keys, the Sovereign Domain of Clerics, the Arbiter, the Circle of the Arbiter Druid. Then for Fighter, we have a Bone Knight and a Vigilante. Monks have the Way of the Argent Fist. Paladins have the Oath of Sacrament. Rangers have a Field Marshal. A Divine Herald for a Rogue. A Progenitor Spark for Sorcerer. Pact of the Host, Warlock. And the School of Antiquities, Wizard. After this, it's going to get into the cultures of Eberron, which are going to be, some different... some different racial considerations. You know, what are halflings? What are Eberron halflings compared to others? Which is also why I have the player's handbook open right over here. So we can take a look between the two if we need to. Talenta cultures and history, ancestral cultures of the shifters, cultural anomalies of the tieflings, and so on. The Wayfinder's Guide is officially sanctioned by WotC, even though it is playtest/UA content. The miscellany is unofficial content exploring the ideas developed by myself and the other authors. As such, it needs to be a separate product. Aha. Yeah, because it also came out rather recently, too. Tieflings, Dragon Forged. People marked by prophecy, so this is Dragon Mark stuff. And then we get into things called evolutionary feats. And some different backgrounds. And of course, after we review all this, I would love to delve in here and make some characters. Using the backgrounds and all this other stuff that we have going on for Eberron. And we'll have an Eberron review, and then we'll have an Eberron content creation. It talks about fantasy noir. If you want to run inside the setting, and Ivlon, you made a good point that, you know, you can draw stuff out of Eberron, just like you can draw stuff out of Ravnica. But the way it's presented, it's really... I'm going to say the word balanced, but it's balanced for Eberron. It's balanced for Ravnica. I don't know if necessarily the stuff in here is, you know, going to be found in a lot of other campaigns. It's really up to the DM to filter that kind of content. Just because it's printed doesn't mean that someone, you know, a player has a right to demand that they use, you know, X content or whatever. I have heard of Darkest Dungeon, and I have heard of Burning Wheel, because that is the system that the Mouse Guard RPG is based upon. But I haven't heard of Torchbearer, Paisy. And an Eberron fashion show. That could be very interesting. Maybe we can use a fashion show as the theme of our Eberron themed our Eberron themed heist or adventure, whatever we end up making. GM Vault. Please make sure to remind me of that then. That could be a lot of fun. All right. Anyway, so let's dive right in here, huh? A character in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons is a blend of concrete mechanics and abstract story. The Barbarian class provides a specific set of features, skill and weapon proficiencies, and the gift to channel rage. But just because you're playing a class called Barbarian, does that mean you're actually a mannerless brute? One must ask, who are the Barbarians of Eberron? Where are you from, and how might that inspire your adventures going forward? Are you a savage warrior from the Demon Wastes trying to find a way to break your ties to an evil spirit? Or are you a bold Talenta halfling determined to take the world of giants by storm? And this is what Morgrave Miscellany is going to get into. New subclass, racial feats, new forms of dragon marks, and more. It's going to provide you lore in order to build deeper characters and to immerse you in Eberron. Good expansion on the PHB. And Chapter 1 dives into the Eberron lore and player options that realign the prestige classes of Dungeons & Dragons 3rd edition into the archetypes of 5th edition. So this is reaching back, my friends. If any of you have played 3rd edition, I'm fairly certain you know what prestige classes are. And if not, then it is, just think of it as a specialized, a specialization of one or more classes that you've taken. Sort of like a blend. So if you've taken like 3 levels of Rogue and 2 levels of Barbarian, it could open up a prestige class of, I don't know, like Lockbreaker. I'm making this up. There could be a Lockbreaker because there's something for everything in 3rd edition. But then you become this specialized Lockbreaker prestige class that'll have 5 or 10 levels of content that will you know, build up and give you more options that are this Lockbreaker. 1 second, I have to plug my phones in. Alright, Chapter 3 is designed to offer a few resources and optional rules for players and DMs, telling stories that hold true to the classic elements of a hard-boiled, high-stakes pulp noir setting. And then, interestingly enough, it talks about Session 0 and how to run a good Session 0 in Eberron. Joe's Life, hello and welcome to you. It's going very well. We're just getting into Eberron here, so kick back and relax as we take this dive into this content here. Morgrave University doesn't have the finest reputation. We've all heard the stories. We're politely known as a school for adventurers, and more often as a college of grave robbers and tomb raiders. And why not? We believe that the best way to learn is to experience the world. Why read about the Dakani Empire when you can walk through its ruins and see its works with your own eyes? Practical experience trumps dusty scrolls any day, unless you're the one who discovers them. But you'll know all this, or you wouldn't be here. So let me tell you what awaits you in this tome. Here you'll find a collection of our finest courses and lectures, filled with miscellaneous details that might serve you in days ahead. Perhaps you're curious about the workings of the Sibir's Dragon Mark. Are you intrigued by the legends of the infamous Mark of Death, or concerned by the resurgence of aberrant dragon marks? Our courses will tell you all that you need to know. Or it's conceivable that you're looking for career advice. Perhaps you wish to learn the secrets of a Caranthi Bone Knight, or a cleric who draws from the full sovereign host instead of just one of its deities. Maybe you're curious about what can be learned studying the rise and fall of the various empires of Eberron, or the truth behind the legend of the progenitors. Seek out the answers, because even in the past, the answers lie ahead. Go forth boldly. Use this knowledge wisely and well. Adventure awaits you. Kessler. Sharn, 998, YK. Kiss. Mwah. Joe, we are going to be reading through it, but we can discuss it. We can talk about first impressions, good, bad. We can compare things to the Wayfinder's Guide. You know, is it a good extension? Or is everything in here completely overpowered? $15 of garbage, you should never invest in it. Or is this, you know, you'd buy it at $30 because it's actually very well balanced. And it explodes our brains with imagination and thought. Pardon me. Now, there is going to be a lot of fluff in here that I may not get into all of it. Because I want to look at the... Sorry, I have a cat over here that... You okay? Okay. I guess we're fine. But anyway... there's things in here that I don't mind touching on. I'm probably not going to read every single word that exists in the document. But I do want to read enough so that we're looking at the mechanics and we can have a discussion of that while still, you know, exploring the fluff that's associated. All right, Military Application 1103, Barbaric Practices. Even in these enlightened times, barbarism lingers in the shadows of Corvair. Fearsome warriors defined by durability, speed, instinct, and the ability to channel oneself into a physical frenzy. Traditionally, barbarians are savage champions of primitive cultures, relying on force and fury in place of sophisticated techniques. There are many places for such a barbarian in Eberron. Some dare to redefine or reimagine their fury, embodying all that is barbarian but without being barbaric. Eberron is a setting in which arcane magic has been harnessed to build great civilizations, but there are primitive cultures scattered across the world. In choosing to play such a barbarian, a crucial question is, what has drawn you out into the role of adventurer? Why have you left your tribe or clan behind, and what binds you to your adventuring companions? How long have you been in civilized lands? Are you constantly amazed by the wonders of civilization? Or do you consider the people of the Five Nations to be soft and decadent? The Barbarian Origin Table can provide you with ideas. And so we're going to have fun with this, right? If we're going to be doing some character building, I'm definitely going to be rolling on this origin in order to determine, well, I don't know, what is our Barbarian up to? Let's roll a d8. 1. I fought, I'm not generating a character, we're just doing this for a quick practice. I fought as a mercenary in the last war, and even served alongside one of my party. To me, that is a blood-kin bond. Aha! So the party isn't just a bunch of errant rogues getting together at a tavern and, you know, bound together by one thing or another. This is actually creating that tie. I'm pretty new to D&D. I'm level 5 in my first game ever. I've watched some high rollers. I love the game so much. Joe, that is awesome, and welcome to the hobby. I'm glad that you're enjoying yourself, and as you should, right? This game is about fun with friends and family, telling a story, and getting to do all the fun, crazy things that you can't even do in video games because of the constraints. So welcome aboard, and Joe, thank you for finding us and being a part of our community here tonight. You're welcome to share stories from your tabletop. You can ask questions. You can bring up whatever you want. You are sitting at a chair at a game store, and we're having table talk together. Creating the story that you want to play. All right, now there are ties like Carrion Tribes. You're out in the Demon Wastes. This is giving you a lot of very good in Eberron reference fluff. In playing a Carrion Tribes Barbarian, the critical question is, what is your relationship with your people and your demons? Tied to this, what has brought you out of the wastes, and why would the other characters choose to associate with you? These are very important questions to consider. You don't have to reveal everything in session 0 or even the first 10 sessions. Heck, just on Tuesday, we learned that Mordecai, who is Coffee Cat's character, was a vegetarian. And here we are in we just finished session 34. I'm building a new character right now as we speak for the next game I find myself in. Yeah, Joe, building characters is excellent for learning the mechanics, finding inspiration, and even though we're talking about Eberron as a setting, ask yourself something similar. You know, take out the particular location of the Demon Wastes or the affiliation with the Carrion Tribes. In playing, so just think of this. If you're going to play a Barbarian, what is your relationship with your people and your customs, your lands, your family, right? What has brought you into a life of adventuring and away from whatever that variable was? Because, Joe, I want you to consider, if you're a newer player, your character is a representation of mechanics. It's a representation of stats. You know, you do a little bit of math. You know, nothing too complex. Maybe a tad of algebra. Maybe. With, you know, several variables or some conditions that are, like, off and on. But who is your character? Your character is a barbarian in so much that that's a what. What is your character? I want to know who your character is. But that's also why I like the background system in 5th Ed. But think about this stuff, right? Don't build too many or you'll become a DM. Is that a promise or is that a threat, Blargle? All right, so this is getting into halfling barbarians. This is getting into orc barbarians. There's a lot of good regional information that's in here. I would encourage you to go through and read this, because even if you don't end up playing in Eberron, I mean, obviously this is molto bene for Eberron. This is going to steep you in the culture and the geography. The way that this document is presented to you challenges you to think about your character. Who is she or he? From whence have you come? What are your motivations? Do you have ancient enemies? Doesn't even have to be a part of your background. Doesn't have to be a mechanic, like a ranger. Do your people not like elves? You think of them as superstitious creatures. You think of them as bad luck or whatever. You don't need a prompt from the player's handbook or a guide like this to have a detail like that. Or for Coffee Cat, for Coffee Cat and the hinting and the revelation of Mordecai being, I'm sorry, pescatarian, because you did mention you would eat fish. I think that has come up before, but I don't know if it's ever been directly stated. You know, there's nothing in a background that, you know, says this is a part of the character, but Coffee Cat felt it was important enough to include for some reason. It could have just been, I don't know, a weird quirk. I've never played a pescatarian in a fantasy world, and everyone's used to just eating big chunks of meat and cheese and hunting and doing all this other stuff. You know, just, you know, raw kind of survival. Yeah, I eat jerky all the time. You know, it could be made from anything: squirrel, bear, beef, pork. And so we're sort of used to this default. And so by giving a character a trait like that, it really lets you role play. It lets you live a life that perhaps you may personally not. Right? Coffee Cat may enjoy big juicy hamburgers that are cooked medium, right? Steaks that are you know, medium at most. Just dripping, succulent, wonderful meat falls right off the bone. However, the character Mordecai tended before the vampirism set in, which, by the way, is causing probably a very interesting conflict. If you have someone who has been, for his own reasons, an avowed vegetarian or pescatarian, and now you're forced into this existence of killing and drinking the blood of not just animals, but of people, in a way. How does that challenge you? How does that make you think as a role player? See? So in this case, it was digestion issues. Now you're an apex digester of at least blood. There's a lot of that in meat. So you've kind of shifted gears. You've gone from, you know, like first to sixth. Halfling Barbarian is about as fierce as a box of kittens, or a Tiefling Barbarian. Maybe, right? They can make very powerful barbarians. But here, the halflings of the Talenta Plains are nomads who work closely with the dinosaurs of the plains. From the mighty beasts of burden to the swift raptor mounts, the halflings forge close bonds with their scaled companions. The shamans say that when a warrior's beloved mount dies, the halfling can embrace its spirit, drawing it in and becoming an unstoppable beast in halfling flesh. These are the halfling barbarians. Tribal champions who embrace the strength and fury of mighty dinosaurs. The path of the totem warrior is the most common path for the Talenta barbarians. The halflings have their own names for the totems. The bear is the hammertail, known for its heavy armor and powerful tail club. The eagle is the high-flying glidewing. The wolf is the clawfoot, a swift raptor, and the most common warrior's mount. Talentan berserkers are consumed by the primal instincts of their dinosaur spirits, leading to savage frenzies. The path of the ancestral guardian is a rare path. Some who follow it conjure spectral dinosaurs, while others draw on the spirits of legendary warriors. As a Talenta barbarian, you might have a living mount, but think about the spirit that fuels your rage. Who is your dinosaur companion? How did they die? Do you continue to talk to them as they're still with you, or do they exist only in your fury? Do you consider yourself a dinosaur in halfling form, or does the spirit only emerge when you invoke your rage? So, at least with the questions that this Eberron supplement is positing to you, if you want to be a halfling barbarian, you are a fierce little go-getter, right? You have this spiritual bonded dinosaurs. You're this living embodiment of them, vicious, fast, furious. consider this. Civilized barbarians. As a class, the barbarian is a survivor whose unarmored defense, danger sense, and feral instinct help avoid or survive the threats they face. They're fast, reflected both by improved movement speed and feral instinct. They are skilled combatants who shun heavy armor. They are defined by reckless attack and most of all by rage, a surge of strength and aggressive power. All of these abilities fit the classic barbarian warrior. However, these abilities can reflect other stories. Feral instincts don't have to be feral, but can simply reflect remarkable reflexes. Rage is a temporary surge of strength that can only be maintained in the heat of battle, but it would be explained as a focused trance or another sort of combat enhancement. Here's a few examples of barbarians that aren't barbaric, followed by the Path of the Extreme Explorer, a subclass that embraces this idea. And again, we're being immersed into the geography, the lore, the histories of Eberron here with these examples, right? Maybe you're a super soldier, right? Have you been modified by science or magic? As a Warforged barbarian, your rage is a battle surge, boosting your musculature to increase your damage, reinforce your armor, and reduce injuries. Cast Reduce on a small barbarian and use the catapult spell to launch them at the enemies. Hey, something like that could very well be done in the course of a story. All right, so here's our base barbarian in the player's handbook. This is the optional subclass of Path of the Extreme Explorer. This is being presented as a contest to either Path of the Berserker or Path of the Totem Warrior. Some explorers search for mystical secrets, delving into the crumbling ruins of Zendrick, or climbing to the highest towers of Sharn. Some explorers venture into the frigid depths of the Frostfell, or face the sandstorms of the Blade Desert in search of forgotten civilizations and ancient treasure. Whether driven by a thirst for gold, knowledge, or a love of a good challenge, the Extreme Explorer is an archetypal action hero, ready to face any challenge that Eberron can offer. Rather than being driven by rage, an Extreme Explorer is guided by remarkable luck and fueled by pure adrenaline. Every Extreme Explorer is a unique individual, and background helps to define their story. It probably should be "and their background helps to define their story." The adventurous Morgrave scholar could be a sage who's equally comfortable in a library or jungle. A bold crypt raider might take the criminal background, reflecting a knack for dealing with traps and useful contacts when it comes to fencing recovered artifacts. An urchin born in Sharn has no interest in gold or glory, but has never met a tower that couldn't be climbed. Most of all, an Extreme Explorer is an adventurer, italicized adventurer, ever ready for the next challenge. So 3rd, 6th, 10th, 14th, Adrenaline Rush, Cunning Artisan, Adaptive Elements, Extreme Rush, Elevated Exploration, and Conditioned Endurance. So unless there's any questions about what is the base of Barbarian, which was addressed above, how you could reskin things like Danger Sense or Fast Movement as simply being survival techniques. Feral Instinct doesn't have to be feral. If we go off of another way to look at these abilities, maybe we can keep up. Let's compare what each of the paths get. So at 3rd level, you get Adrenaline Rush and Cunning Artisan. Starting when you choose this path at 3rd level, a rush of adrenaline by the thrill of inherent danger fuels your rage. While raging, you can push your body and mind, each time sacrificing your own vitality to rise to the occasion. Whenever you make an ability check, attack roll, or saving throw while raging, you can spend one of your hit dice to push your normal limits. Roll the hit die and add the number rolled to the total. You can choose to do so after you roll your d20, but before the DM tells you whether you succeed or fail. Immediately after, you take damage equal to the number rolled minus your proficiency bonus, and you can't reduce this damage by any other means. I'm working on reskinning for the class I'm working on. Yeah, Joe, reskinning. I don't know if there was ever necessarily a taboo sense to reskinning spells and races and classes in prior editions, but 5th edition heavily encourages people to reskin what's here. Make it your own. You know, add your own flavor. They're providing a little panache to some balanced-ish statistics, to the crunch, to the math. But really, it's up to you to make a decision for who the character is, what the character is. What are the decisions that are made? What about the Spirit Barbarian who gets help from ghosts? I'm not familiar with that one offhand, unless you're talking about the Totem Barbarian that is talking to animal spirits. Chud Killer. You're gonna head off to bed? Alright, Coffee. I'll see you around. Thanks for stopping in. Depending on how, I mean, Bard is up next if that interests you, so even if you're listening with half an ear as you're drifting off, that'll be coming up next here. Oh, it's a new one? Which expansion is that one out of? Joe, if you would like to join our Discord, we actually have a mentor network that you can be a part of here. Oh, come on, there we go. And so if you come down here to where it says RPG Workshop, if you want to drop it in here because you want to work with some RP mentors, you see how we have a mentor network over here? If you have questions, you want to develop something, you can drop it in over here. So !Discord will get you the invite. We keep the Discord safe for work, like no worse than PG-13. And if your name is different on Discord than it is on Twitch, can you sync up your Discord name with your Twitch to make sure communication is easier? Ancestral Guardian. It doesn't sound familiar offhand, but I'm not completely familiar with all of the splat that's out there. Which supplement is that out of? Alright, so whenever you make an ability check, attack roll, or saving throw while raging, you can spend one of your hit die to push your normal limits. This is interesting because now this is making a barbarian... This is giving barbarians a... kind of a backdoor expertise or like a backdoor jack of all trades. Instead of just getting it like a bard would, you have to pay the price for it. But as you are straining yourself while raging, mind you, so there are some limits in that regard. It is going to give you a bonus to make you, just that much more skillful, or you can save maybe a little bit more like a rogue than a little bit more like a rogue than a bard. Cunning Artisan. Also at 3rd level, as part of a short rest, you can harvest bone and hide from a slain beast, construct, dragon, monstrosity, or plant creature of size small or larger to create one of the following items: a shield, a club, a javelin, or 1d4 darts or blowgun needles. To use this trait, you need a blade such as a dagger or appropriate artisan's tools such as leatherworker's tools. Let's take a look here. At 3rd level, you go into a frenzy when you rage. If you do so for the duration of your rage, you can make a single melee weapon attack as a bonus action on each of your turns. When your rage ends, you suffer a level of exhaustion. Or you'd get Spirit Seeker. At 3rd level, when you adopt this path, you gain the ability to cast Beast Sense and speak with animals, but only as rituals. And you get a Totem Spirit. So it's more. This is more like the Path of the Totem Warrior, where you get some utility, right? The utility is Cunning Artisan, and then you get something that's more of a mechanic in the form of the Totem Spirit, where you're getting a mechanical advantage on something. This is more for combat, you know, endurance, where this is, but it's. I mean, you could use it on an attack roll as well, but I guess it's more general, I suppose. You know, you're not becoming a beast and getting these like very powerful but specific enhancements. You're getting kind of a catch-all of you're using your hit dice, so you can't get those hit points back later, and the hit die are actually dealing damage to you now, so you're getting an advantage now in the middle of your rage. Which, by the way, could, it may not necessarily overpower something. So, for example, you have advantage on strength checks and strength saving throws when you make a melee weapon attack. That's resistance. If you're able to cast spells, you can't cast them or concentrate. So, you know, could it help for picking locks, I suppose, if you want to rage or blow through them? Because your DM might say you're not attacking the lock, and so you're going to have to blow your rages to kind of pump yourself up because you're not receiving damage or you're not really damaging something else. So, you know, could it be abused? I suppose if you're willing to really blow your rages for the day and or you're willing to blow through your hit dice, it could be, you know, you're exchanging all that power up front. But I don't know if there's anything necessarily problematic. I would probably offer that if there is going to be a tweak to this, it would be that it should be one of your Barbarian hit dice. Let's say that you're going Wizard Barbarian, which you can do. In 5th edition, it's not that difficult, honestly. If you're going Wizard Barbarian, this is allowing you... Well, I don't know, because then you could only receive up to a 6, but a 6 could make all the difference. So it might be... I don't know. It might be better to specify that you have to use your Barbarian hit dice for this pool. And if any of you have any input on that, if you think I'm wrong, or if you think I'm right, or if you think there's an alternative, please shout it out, because I want to explore this with you all. We're sitting at a table, let's talk through this. Ancestral Guardian, it's out of Xanathar's. Okay, gotcha. Thank you to both of you for providing that info. It's been a while since I've cracked into that. And I'm going to have to here soon, because the character builder, our random character prompting sheet, I want to expand, or I want to have an alternative form that has all the splat books in it. I'm making a Barbarian Paladin. How does rage affect that? Rage would not affect... rage would not affect your use of blowing spell slots for purposes of smiting. That's not casting a... I mean, I don't know. Your DM might say otherwise. I don't think it technically counts as casting a spell. Lay on hands... Let me make sure, because sometimes it comes... all the words in this document are specifically chosen for a reason. A pool of healing power. Restore hit points. Touch a creature and draw on the power. So it doesn't say you're casting a spell or concentrating. Hey, Dorak! This is 12 months in a row. Check it out. You have the spiciest red salsa by your name. Dorak, thank you so much. So, Lay on Hands... Lay on Hands is not casting a spell nor concentrating. However, it does take an action, and you could possibly lose your rage because you're not making an attack. So that is something to bear in mind, Joe. Now, if you take damage from in some way, that will keep your rage going, but you could lose your rage if you use Lay on Hands. And then as for smiting, you can expend a paladin spell slot to deal radiant damage. So you're not casting a spell, nor are you concentrating. Oh, thank you. Yeah, this quest sucks and it takes you all around. I mean, come on, is this not a D&D game? So when you read these interactions, Joe, make sure you're paying attention to the verbiage, which is also the point to come back up here to Adrenaline Rush. This doesn't say, you know, Barbarian hit dice. It just says one of your hit dice. And if I were, I guess, to try and munchkin or min-max this, which we want to stress test this document, I would be much more willing to burn a lower level hit die from a sorcerer, a wizard, even a D8 from a monk or something. If I want to have a speed build and I go monk barbarian, I would blow a D8 to try and get that bonus, because there's only a certain point that you need the bonus before it really becomes ubiquitous. And then I would keep my D12s for healing or the like. So I don't know. Maybe to be more thematic, it should be labeled as a barbarian hit die. Well, yeah, Joe, if you want to link it, and I'll take a look at it when I have the opportunity to do so. And other RP mentors might do the same too, Joe. Adaptive elements. Starting at 6th level as part of a short rest, you can spend 10 minutes insulating you or your equipment against the elements. You must have access to cloth, furs, paper, plants, and other naturally occurring materials to create your insulation. Once you are insulated in this way, you gain resistance to cold or fire damage, and the choice you make allows you to tolerate temperatures as low as -50 or as high as 150 degrees Fahrenheit without any additional protection. Now, does that count the wind shear? You know, it could be, you know, -2 out, but the wind makes it -50. You choose when you complete the short rest. And another, so this is survival. This is kind of fluff. There is a mechanic to it. You know, are you going to change this up often? Probably not. I mean, if you're trudging through winter woods, I mean, it's kind of throwing back to yesterday's game, the Tuesday game. You know, are you going to swap it that often? No, but it tends to make you more adaptable, more survivable. So then that was the more the fluff. Now let's get into the crunch. At 6th level, you can focus your adrenaline to greater effect. You gain the following benefits. Instinctual focus. When you use your Adrenaline Rush feature to make an intelligence, wisdom, or charisma ability check as a barbarian, right? Oh, mental stats in a barb, huh? You can add half of your proficiency bonus rounded down to the ability check if it doesn't already include your proficiency bonus. Aha. It's harkening back to Adrenaline Rush. And now it's being more refined. If you want to use your brain over your bronze in this case. When you use your Adrenaline Rush feature to succeed on a saving throw against a creature you can see within range, you can immediately use your reaction to make a melee or thrown weapon attack against the creature. If you hit, you add the number rolled to the weapon's damage. or unbridled aggression. When you use your Adrenaline Rush feature to hit with a melee or thrown weapon attack that targets only one creature that you can see, you can use the weapon to deal extra damage to the target equal to the number you roll on the hit die. More adaptability, flexibility. You're reacting to the environment around you because you are an extreme explorer. This is how you survive, by trudging through things. This is Bear Grylls. I mean, any memes about, staying hydrated aside. This is supposed to be, how do you adapt to the things that suddenly change around you? A rock slide, an ambush, an animal attack. If we look back here to Barbarian, at 6th level, we are getting Mindless Rage, so we can't be charmed or frightened. Very straightforward, but this could be very powerful too. And Path of the Totem Warrior, we're getting another magical aspect that's taking us in a focused combat direction. This is just making us more adaptable to the situation around us. I'm not seeing any lag on my end, Joe. I don't see any dropped. I don't see any dropped frames. Is anyone else having problems out there with the video or the sound? Elevated exploration. At 10th level, your enthusiasm for reaching untrod ground emboldens your ability to traverse gaps and untoward obstacles with uncanny ease. Climbing and swimming no longer cost you extra movement, and your speed increases by 10 feet while you're not wearing heavy armor. At 14th level, while you have both hands open, you gain the ability to move along vertical surfaces on your turn without falling during the move. So a couple things about the verbiage. It's giving you a swim speed and a climb speed at 10th level, which is probably, that seems to be way more generous here, right? You get Commune with Nature, and you also get, you can use your action to frighten someone with your menacing presence. So this is giving you a little bit of extra speed. I mean, I guess a lot if you look at it. If you're getting a climb speed and a swim speed, and overall an extra 10 feet as long as you're not in heavy armor, that's pretty good. And then that auto scales up at 14th level, which I don't believe that you get... so I guess that kind of combos with the conditioned endurance, which is something like totemic attunement or retaliation. But in this case, you gain the ability to move along vertical surfaces on your turn without falling. Well, maybe then, if I'm talking about the particular verbiage being used, it's not a climb speed and it's not a swim speed. Because it sounds like you still need to make the checks. You don't get it automatically, like walking. But it means it just won't slow you down, but you still have to make the athletics checks to go with it. I think that's the intention. And then when it comes into 14th level, you can move along vertical surfaces on your turn without falling. So this is then kind of a climb speed, but that would mean you don't have full climb like spider climb to cling to upside down surfaces. This is just if you want to parkour, to kind of cling to walls and to scoot across ledges, to go rock climbing, that kind of a thing. So these are degrees of everything but, like, one exclusion, then one exclusion before you just get the whole shebang. And it also says while you have both hands open. Presumably, especially because barbarians can use shields, presumably, or this is a talk to your DM, I guess this would be kind of unclear. Can you do this while wielding a shield if your hand is open? Pardon. It says it's carried in one hand. So, by the player's handbook rules, if it is in a hand, and especially if we come down to Chapter 6 with the Warcaster, you can perform the somatic components of spells even when you have weapons or a shield in one or both hands. And when we look at spell casting, no, maybe that's in rituals. Spellcasting gestures might include a forceful gesticulation or an intricate set of gestures. If a spell requires a somatic component, the caster must have free use of at least one hand to perform these gestures. So Warcaster means that you can hold on to like a weapon and a shield. You could probably like be wrestling with someone and grappling them as well. Of at least one hand. So I don't know. It sounds like you'd be able to do this with a shield. I don't know if it says hands plural. Yeah, if you have both hands open. So maybe you have to stow your shield if you're going to shimmy across, the ledges of a skyscraper kind of a thing. Hello, Daily. Welcome. At 14th level, when you roll a hit die to fuel one of your Extreme Explorer features, and the number is less than your proficiency bonus, you don't expend the hit die after you add the number to your roll. So we're getting a little bit of extra movement, and then, I guess an insurance policy. Which, I think that this subclass is definitely front-loaded. You may look at this and go, it's not terrible, though, because by 14th level, take a look at your proficiency bonus, right? It's already +5. It's not going to get much higher, right? At 17th level, at epic level, you're going to get one more. But having it at least a guaranteed, I guess it's not guaranteed, but not losing hit points for a low boon isn't terrible. You've definitely got a lot of stuff up front. Level 14, you can go like, and that could be a... not everything has to be super exciting or super mechanical, because remember, a lot of these have to account for all different manner of adventure and of circumstances. But Daily, it's been a great night. We're going through the new Eberron content. Bard, historian, musician, or spy. From the ancient goblin dirge singers to the entertainers of House Fjarlin, many creatures embrace the bard as an entertainer who also serves as a historian or bearer of news, a chronicler, if you will. Here at Morgrave, you will learn not to merely preserve history, but rather to shape it. Endomusicology. To survive on the road, a trooper must be clever, charismatic, and versatile above all. Whether tryst with a foe resolves by silver tongue or adamantine blade, an adventuring bard's worth truly comes from the ability to improvise a magical talent to charm, lull, or simply assist with a nearly limitless reservoir of practical knowledge and skill. While the common trope sings of a troubadour whose magic harmonizes with some cosmic symphony, those who have traversed Corvair have learned that inspiration is the true magic of any bardic exhibition, regardless of the medium. So here we're getting into more detailed exploration of the setting, of the geography, of the culture. And if you get this book, and if you like the Eberron setting, I would recommend that you read it. I'm not skipping over it because I think it's boring. I'm proceeding because I want to get into the crunch, the rules of these subclasses. to see what we're dealing with, because the subclass presumably can exist in any setting. Now, it's made for Eberron, but if this can exist anywhere, let's take a look at that, because we'll adapt it. We'll adapt this. Oh, geez, there's so much information on bards here. Whew, you like playing bards? Look at all the stuff it could cause you to think about, right? The College of Keys is going to be the subclass here. More reason to use artificers. Oh, by the way, Daily, we have a new emote that Trustaflumph ended up invoking. And if you didn't check it out yet, Trustaflumph ended up getting a box, and look at that. Joe's Life, hey, thank you very much for the follow. By the way, everybody, that... One second while I bring it up here. We currently have 991 followers. We are so close to 1,000. Bards without music. Traditionally, a bard is a master of song, speech, and all the magic they contain. But the abilities of the bard can lend themselves to many character concepts that have nothing to do with music or entertainment. Eberron is a world where magic is a part of life, and the bard's spellcasting could be closer to the talents of a magic initiate, mage rite, or wand slinger, but at a level of artistry that surpasses the common adept. Optional rule, bardic tool proficiency. This optional rule supports characters who want to have the general abilities of a bard, but have no reason to rely on musical training. If your DM uses this rule during character creation, you can exchange the 3 instrument proficiencies provided by the bard class for a single tool or kit proficiency you don't already know. And so that's showing a little bit of ankle towards the artificer, which cast through their artisan tools and their implements. These are different ways that you can play a bard as a chronicler, as a grifter, as a spy. Every culture has its own musical traditions, and so here is more culture, more background, things to think about if you want to play in Eberron, or extract it and replace it with something that's equivalent in your own homebrew campaign, or Faerun, or in Dark Sun, or in Ravenloft. Wouldn't that be interesting? Just yesterday, I saw a young bard at a local tavern flirting with a door. She got her way, of course. Instruments of Eberron. So if we're going to create a bard, we would roll a d8, 5. And this random character would have a crude harp from the Demon Wastes, made from the gut and bones of some unknown creature. Now, it doesn't mean they can't play beautiful music. You could play love ballads on this thing. Or, you know, it would be sort of like that metal of, you know, where you have like power rock ballads, where, you know, you have the heavy distortion and the electric guitars, but it's still a love song at heart. You know, what a fun roleplay prompt. Why do you have this instrument? What does it do? What does it mean? In some way, is this cultural to a tribe where your parents died, and because they made you, it's your job as an heir to make something of them? And in this case, it's an instrument so that they can continue to sing and teach lessons even in the afterlife. Now we've just created a whole religious, quasi-religious concept. Something that's cultural, something that might be unique to your corner of your fantasy world. It might cause people to go, oh, that's your, you know, like, you're playing the xylophone on your mom's rib cage? And you're like, yeah, so? Isn't it beautiful? It's finely tuned. And explore it. All right, here's the subclass for Bard. Many say that it was a warden of House Kunderic that first mastered the technique of the College of Keys, singing a song so beautiful that the locks of Dreadhold opened and closed with harmonious rhythm. Whatever the truth, the techniques of the College of Keys are a boon to anyone who faces locks and traps on a regular basis. Many masters, and this is why they're saying that these are like proficiency, or not proficiency, what's the name? The 3rd edition specialty classes. I'm derping out. No, not prolific. The 3rd edition classes that they'd fuse 2 things together. Anyone out there, can you help me out? It's not proficiency. It's prestige. Prestige classes. So this is more of a specialized bard. I mean, it is the subclass that's supposed to take you in a direction, but this is more a prestige class fine tuning. I guess, bard puns aside. Yeah. No, it's fine, Daily. This document said that it wanted to present subclasses that were more like prestige classes from 3rd edition. So whatever the truth, the technique of the College of Keys are a boon to anyone who faces locks or traps on a regular basis. So there's probably not going to be as many of these bards rolling around as there is lore or valor, that kind of a thing. Many masters of this path can be found in House Kunderic, but the elves of House Fjarlin orchestrate the Timber Illuminus, and spies and thieves alike yearn to strike the master keynote. It is an uncommon path, and one that is very difficult to master, but riches await those who unravel its mysteries. So you get bonus proficiency, a key change, and the Timber Illuminus. At 6th level, you get the Cypheric Ostinato, and then you get the Master Keynote at 14th. So now let's move to Bard, right? We have our basic Bard right here. So we're not really arguing against that because we're going to compare the College of Keys to what you get in the College of Lore and the College of Valor. So when you join the College of Keys at 3rd level, you gain proficiency with Thieves' Tools if you don't already have it. Also at 3rd level, you learn to bend locks and traps with dashing style. If you have expertise in one of your charisma skills, you can use that skill instead of making a dexterity check with your Thieves' Tools. Interesting. Now, is that... I don't think that's broken per se, and I think it sets up the theme of just what this subclass does. You already have to have expertise, and, you know, if you're a rogue, you might be taking expertise in Thieves' Tools anyway. Although, if that's the case, if you have expertise in... Oh, no, so, so this would just be like, this would be using deception to tell a lock a sweet lie, so you don't have to have your Thieves' Tools. If you don't have it on it, you can just sort of go up and whisper, you know, and it'll unlock. Well, no, hang on. So you might need the Thieves' Tools also. It's just a charisma-based Thieves' Tool. Hang on. If you have expertise in one of your charisma skills, you can use that skill instead of making a dexterity check with Thieves' Tools. Yeah, so I think that would just be a straight-up deception or persuasion or intimidation. And Nubian Nerd, welcome. Thank you for the follow. That, oh, we're ever so close to 1,000. Ever closer. We're inching closer and closer. So So I guess it's giving you options, right? If it's giving you proficiency with thieves' tools, you could use a dex-based thief tool check, or if you don't have it or you don't want to use it, then it allows you to use a charisma skill. I suppose the question would come with, is this magical? Like, if there's an anti-magic field in some way, can you not use key change? Or if you are in a silence, zone, could you not use key change? If you're in a zone of truth, could you not use deception, despite this saying that you can use any charisma skill? Now, the general rule amongst card games and other tabletop games is you can unless something tells you that you can't. And so, on first blush, in my own, I'm asking you all, but it's also rhetorical back to me. If you are in a zone of truth where you can't lie, I would probably rule that you can't use deception to open a lock if you're in a pinch. This does seem to be kind of inherently magical. So I may also rule that you'd have to use mundane tools if you're in an anti-magic area, or if you're in a silence. Performance, maybe, right? Because you can do a little dance as performance. It might depend on, some specialties you have or the roleplay circumstances. So where a zone of truth would take deception off the table, a silence condition might keep performance on the table. But these are things to think about. If you want to allow this as a DM at your table, what happens in these circumstances? Because it's not directly stated here. And if any of you out there have your own opinions on what would happen in these circumstances, you are welcome to throw it out there to say, well, what I would do as a DM in this circumstance is, and that's perfectly fine. I'm looking for this kind of input. Also, at 3rd level, you can coax a variety of information from a mechanism regarding its composition using merely verse and rhyme. When you spend at least 1 minute speaking or singing to a construct or inanimate mechanism, you can expend 1 bardic inspiration to learn certain information about its capabilities compared to your own. And by the way, see, this is where it's important, where it says something like bardic inspiration, because bardic inspiration is kind of a representation of luck. And you can ask yourself, is luck magical? You can affect luck with magic, but is luck intrinsically magical for purposes of wild magic, no magic, counter magic, that kind of a thing? In fact, this is a concept that was just starting to be explored on Tuesday in our roleplay game. Although, I don't know if any of the players are in here from Tuesday, so this is our little secret, everyone. Yeah, Coffee Cat went to bed. Ha ha! The fools, they don't know what's happening. The DM tells you 2 of the following characteristics of the mechanism of your choice. The purpose, is it a lock, trap, surveillance? Intricacy, singular, compound, or complex? Nature, is it magical, mundane, or otherwise? Approximate difficulty class, easy, hard, nearly impossible. Elemental energies present, if any. And additional embedded magical qualities, if any. It's good information, and it is definitely reflective of a super specialized bard rogue fusion for a prestige class, right? In fact, if any of you have 3rd edition knowledge, if you know a name of a prestige class that is kind of following along with this, I'd be interested to learn the name of it. It's been so long since I've played 3rd Ed, a lot of those have fallen out of my brain. Cypheric Ostinato. Starting at... Oh, by the way, I'm sorry. At 3rd level, for the College of Lore, you get your cutting words, and so that's a different way you can use your Bardic Inspiration. And then you get proficiency with 3 skills of your choice. At 6th level is 2 spells of your choice. College of Valor is proficiency with medium armor, shields, and martial weapons, and combat inspiration. And then you get an extra attack at 6th level. At 6th level here for Cypheric Ostinato. Starting at 6th level, you learn to control vocal range and resonance of your voice to offset the magic or material mechanisms within security and surveillance spells. When you use your action to disarm or dispel a trap, or when you make a saving throw to avoid the full effects of a trap or magical ward, you can choose to expend 1 use of your Bardic Inspiration, rolling the Bardic Inspiration die and adding the number rolled to the ability check or saving throw. You can choose to use this feature after seeing the roll, but before the DM determines whether the ability check or saving throw succeeds or fails. Pretty straightforward, just like an extra attack or extra magical spells. And Master Keynote. At 14th level, you learn how to hone pitch and rhythm to disarm all nearby mechanical impediments. You can expend 1 use of Bardic Inspiration to disarm all traps and open all locks within 30 feet for a number of rounds equal to the number you roll on the Bardic Inspiration die. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a short or long rest. So it's kind of a mass knock spell. It still makes noise and it still opens stuff up, I guess magically. See, this is what's weird, because it's saying that this is rhythm, that it's musical, but is it necessarily magical? Would this work in a magical environment? What do you all think? Is this some, it's an ability that supersedes magic because it's luck, or it's harmonics that just so happen to align in a way? So it's like a fusion of luck and resonance? Because this just says hone, pitch, and rhythm. It doesn't say it's magical. Could this be counterspelled? It seems like it definitely can be silenced. And so at 14th level for the Valor, when you make an ability check, you can expend a use of Bardic Inspiration, roll a Bardic Inspiration die, and the number rolled to your ability check. You can choose to do so after you roll the die. So this is 14th level because this can be used on any skill. The other one is the level 6 because it is very specific to traps and saving effects for them. So I can understand that swap. And 14th level Battle Magic, it lets you, weaving spellcasting and the weapon into a single harmonious act. When you use your action to cast a bard spell, you can make 1 weapon attack as a bonus action. So this is very highly stylized, but this will make you very much a master thief, or I guess a dungeon tactician, a jailer, or a jailbreaker, like a freedom fighter. This is definitely very powerful at the thing that it does. A dungeon master, in my opinion, would need to be aware that if a player wants to play this class, or rather this subclass, that the opportunity to use these abilities... I mean, because look, bards have a lot of stuff just by being a bard. And look, you get 3rd level, 6th level, and 14th level for your subclass. Still, your player took this subclass to wish to use it, and so account for that as the DM, because this is more of a specialty, right? All right, everyone, let's take a little bit of a break. I got to get up and stretch my back, do a little twist, get some water, maybe get a snack, and when we come back, let's continue going through the classes, and we're going to pick up on the cleric. and we'll see how far this takes us tonight. All right. So we'll come back in 10 minutes. Use the bathroom. Take a dog out for a walk. Whatever you got to do, and we'll be back.